Hi all, good morning. I'm Mrs. Mescher, librarian at Chinook Middle School, and today I'm going to read the first chapter of The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This is something that you can check out from school, so make sure to log in and put it on hold, and we will get it ready for you. Chapter 1. Ada, get back from that window, Mam's voice shouted. Mam's arm grabbing mine, yanking me so I toppled off my chair and fell hard onto the floor. I was only saying hello to Stephen White. I knew better than to talk back, but sometimes my mouth was faster than my brain. I'd become a fighter that summer. Mam smacked me. Hard. My head snapped back against the chair leg, and for a moment I saw stars. Don't you be talking to nobody, Mam said. I let you look out that window out of the kindness of my heart, but I'll board it over if you go sticking your nose out, much less talking to anyone. Jamie's out there, I mumbled. And why shouldn't he be, Mam said. He ain't a cripple, not like you. I clamped my lips over what I might have said next and shook my head to clear it. Then I saw the smear of blood on the floor. Oh, mercy. I hadn't cleaned it all up from this afternoon. If Mom saw it, she'd put two and two together fast. Then I'd be in the soup for sure. I slid over until my bottom covered the blood stain, and I curled my bad foot beneath me. You'd better be making my tea, Mam said. She sat on the edge of the bed and peeled off her stockings, wiggling her two good feet near my face. I'm off to work in a bit. Yes, ma'am. I pushed my window chair sideways to hide the blood. I crawled across the floor, keeping my scabbed-over bad foot out of Mam's line of sight. I pulled myself onto our second chair, lit the gas ring, and put the kettle on. Get me some bread and dripping, too, Mam said. Get some from your brother, too. She laughed. And, if there's any left, you can throw it out the window. See if Stephen White would like your dinner. How'd you like that? I didn't say anything. I cut two thick slices off the bread and shoved the rest behind the sink. Jamie wouldn't come home until after Mam left anyhow, and he'd always share whatever food there was with me. When the tea was ready, Mam came to get her mug. I see that look in your eyes, my girl, she said. Don't start thinking you could cross me. You're lucky I put up with you as it is. You have no idea how much worse things can be. I had poured myself a mug of tea, too. I took a deep swallow and felt the hot liquid scalded trail clear down to my gut. Mam wasn't kidding, but then neither was I. There are all kinds of wars. This story I'm telling starts out 4 years ago at the beginning of the summer of 1939. England stood at the edge of another great war then, the war we're in the middle of now. Most people were afraid. I was 10 years old, though I didn't know my age at the time, and while I'd heard of Hitler, little bits and pieces and swear words that floated from the lane to my third-floor window, I wasn't the least concerned about him or any other war fought between nations. You'd think from what I already told you that I was at war with my mother, but my first war, the war I waged that June, was between my brother and me. Jamie had a mop of dirt brown hair, the eyes of an angel, and the soul of an imp. Mam said he was 6 years old and would have to start school in the fall. Unlike me, he had two strong legs and two sound feet on the ends of them. He used them to run away from me. I dreaded being alone. Our flat was one room on the third floor above the pub where Mam worked nights. In the mornings, Mam slept late, and it was my job to get Jamie something to eat and keep him quiet until she was ready to wake up. Then Mam usually went out to shop or talk to women in the lane. Sometimes she took Jamie with her, but mostly not. In the evenings, Mam went to work, and I fed Jamie tea and sang to him and put him to sleep, and I'd been doing all that for as long as I can remember, from the days when Jamie still wore diapers and was too small to use the pot. We played games and sang songs and watched the world out the window, the Iceman in his cart, the rag-and-bone man in a shaggy pony, the men coming home from the docks in the evenings, and the women hanging out the wash and talking on the stoops, the children in the lane skipping rope and playing tag. I could have gotten down the stairs even then. I could have crawled or scooted on my bottom. I wasn't helpless. But the one time I did venture outdoors, Mam found out and beat me until my shoulders bled. You're no but a disgrace, she screamed. A monster with that ugly foot. You think I want the world seeing my shame? She threatened to board over my window if I went downstairs again. That was always her threat to me. My right foot was small and twisted so that the bottom pointed skyward, all the toes in the air, and what should have been the top touched the ground. The ankle didn't work right, of course, and it hurt whenever I put my weight on it, so for most of my life I never did. I was good at crawling. I didn't protest staying in one room so long as it held both Jamie and me. But as Jamie grew older, he wanted to be with the other children playing in the street. Why shouldn't he? Mam said. He's normal enough. To Jamie, she said, you're not like Ada. You can go wherever you like. He can't, I said. He has to stay where I can see him. At first he did, but then he made friends with a gang of boys and went running out of sight all day. He came home with stories about the docks and the River Thames, where big ships unloaded cargo from around the world. He told me about trains and warehouses bigger than our whole block of flats. He'd seen St. Mary's, the church whose bells I marked time. and as the summer days grew longer, he stayed out later and later until he came home hours after Mam left. He was gone all the time, and Mam didn't care. My room was a prison. I could hardly bear the heat and the quiet and the emptiness. I tried everything to make Jamie stay. I barred the door so he couldn't get out, but he was already stronger than me. I pleaded and pleaded with Mam. I threatened Jamie, and then one hot day I tied his hands and feet while he was sleeping. I would make him stay with me. Jamie woke up. He didn't scream or shout. He thrashed once, and then he lay helpless, looking at me. Tears slid down his cheeks. I untied him as quickly as I could. It felt like a monster. He had a red mark on his wrist from where I'd pulled the string too tight. I won't do it again, I said. I promise. I'll never do that again. Still, his tears flowed. I understood. In all my life, I'd never hurt Jamie. I'd never hit him. Not once. Now I'd become like Mam. I'll stay inside, he whispered. No, I said. No, you don't need to, but have some tea before you leave. I gave him a mug and a piece of bread and dripping. It was just the two of us that morning. Mam gone I don't know where. I patted Jamie's head and kissed the top of it and sang him a song and did all I could to make him smile. Pretty soon you'll be going to school anyhow, I said, astonished that I hadn't fully realized this before. You'll be gone all day then, but I'll be okay. I'm going to fix things, so I'll be okay. I coaxed him into going out to play, and then I waved to him from the window. Then I did what I should have done to start with. I taught myself to walk. If I could walk, maybe Mam wouldn't be so ashamed of me. Maybe we could disguise my crippled foot. Maybe I could leave the room and stay with Jamie, or at least go to him if he needed me. That's what happened, though not the way I thought it would. In the end, it was the combination of the two, the end of my little war against Jamie and the start of the big war, Hitler's war, that set me free. That is chapter 1 of The War That Saved My Life.